Today we're talking about custodians, orcs, and how you might be able to dress up like you're from the old world. All this and more in this week's Hobby News. My name's Angela, and you're watching Hobby Night. Games Workshop has revealed a number of new miniatures this past week, and I thought we'd take a look at all of them. Starting up first, we have some Age of Sigmar miniatures. Let's take a look.
In the mortal realms, the shadow war between order and anarchy isn't always fought by those blessed with superhuman strength and immortality.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Hanover Tall are two such bastions of light in the darkness.
Okay. Looks like some witch hunters, which is cool.
One is a former Free Guild soldier, the other an experienced witch hunter. And
I like his hat. I do like the hat.
Owe their continued existence to the interventions of Callus and Toll. In battle, Callus wields a brace of Dwarven forged pistols, while his partner is an
Dwarven
expert
forged pistols,
duelist
huh?
who isn't afraid to fight dirty to triumph. They are accompanied by the mighty Stormcast Eternal, Lord Castellan Valius, the Spymaster, Mistress Verentia, and the light-fingered Lissa Ravenia. Now,
interesting.
The secret wars continue, and heathen sorcerers, depraved cultists, and other enemies of civilization fear being discovered by Callus and Tom.
Alright, so we have a couple of new Age of Sigmar miniatures, some witch hunters, which, don't get me wrong, I actually think look really cool. I'm into this aesthetic that Games Workshop has been going with, especially with some of their more modern Cities of Sigmar products, because it does lean very old world. But maybe this is just me, but it also makes Age of Sigmar feel like it's having a little bit of an identity crisis, because we have these very grim dark looking, but still very clean. Like, good lord, these are the cleanest fantasy figures ever. They have like zero dirt on any of their boots or anything like that. They are just so super clean. But regardless, ignoring that, we have these sort of grim dark, real world-esque looking models, and then we get them paired with this guy, which is just a much more World of Warcraft, high fantasy, like Space Marine-esque almost. And then we get them paired additionally with, honestly, a woman that looks like a rogue trader to me. Like, if you had told me this woman came in Blackstone Fortress, I would have 100% believed you, because she just looks like she's a rogue trader. And then we've got the, let's see, where's that other, there she is, the other character as well, who again, kind of looks like she might be coming from Cursed City. And I find this mixed aesthetic interesting, but a little disjointed. I feel like the design Bible that used to dictate how certain games amongst Games Workshop products would actually look has been crossed really heavily for the Age of Sigmar line, and they've just completely lost their identity. I don't know, maybe it's just me. You let me know, are you feeling the same way, or are you just in love with all of these new models? One of the other reveals that we got from Games Workshop this week was a brand new Blood Bowl team, and you guys know how much I love Blood Bowl. Let's watch the video and check out these adorable gnomes. Oh, look at the little duck! I think it's a gooseling, actually. The hedgehog. Oh my god, the details are so good. Ah, it is a goose. Ah! Although I am disappointed that they didn't actually like hire back on the voice actors who play Jim and Bob to actually voice act these scenes. That is mildly disappointing. I feel like Games Workshop has dropped the ball on that, and they should always just have them come and do those like 1 or 2 lines, because it just adds so much, so very much to these ads. However, regardless of that, I absolutely love the look of these little gnomes, and we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at them, because these guys have so much detail, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love about the Blood Bowl models. This goose, the fact that this goose is actually seemingly on the team, he has a little helmet, which is just precious. I love it. I think the duckling, or like the gooseling, is behind Here, you see a little bit of yellow there. Absolutely adorable. I love this character right here, and then the very, very angry honey badger. Like, he's like, bro, get out of the way. I've got a thing to snarl at. I just, the sheer volume of animals in this particular team, I might have to go pick them up and paint them because they are just delightful. I'm not even a big fan of like garden gnomes as like a theme or concept specifically. I find them sometimes mildly creepy. But I mean, look at this fox. Look at this very football-shaped fox. Oh my god, I want them. I love these models. Thank you, Games Workshop, for continuing to produce some absolutely delightful Blood Bowl models. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump into the video to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, especially if you're enjoying the content that you find here. And if you're into the spicier side of the hobby, well, my Only Fanatics VIP page is currently 50% off through the end of the month for new subscribers. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, use the link in the video description below, and I hope to see you there. Now let's go ahead and get back to the video. We're moving over into the realm of Warhammer 40k because we have two different factions that have some pretty major reveals. Let's go ahead and find out what the Custodians are getting first. Now, this model that we're seeing here is one that we've seen previewed before, but only in silhouette form. It isn't until now that we've gotten the full reveal, and we are finally getting a brand new shield captain, and he looks absolutely stunning, just like a Custodian should, decked out in gold. But the big reveal is the fact that we're getting the Custodian Codex soon, which is a really awesome thing to find out. I'm especially excited about this because the Chaos Cultist has been interested in building a Custodian force for a really long time, and this might be the perfect opportunity. So let's go ahead and take a look at this Custodian model in a little bit more detail because they do have a bit more of a preview of him, including a picture of him without his helmet on. And my goodness, does this shield captain need a nap very, very desperately. Just look at the bags under his eyes. Either he is super sleep deprived, because I get it, protecting the Emperor and making sure that he is safe is a very time-consuming job, or he has been tainted by chaos. One or the other, but regardless, I think he at least needs to get a little bit of shut-eye because, good lord, those bags. It's the first thing that I noticed when I scrolled down and was looking at this article to writing my notes for this episode, and I was like, goodness, look at his face. He is intense. I'll probably, if we get this model, try to convince the Chaos Cultist to keep his helmet on because I think it's a little bit of a better look. I don't know, that's just my preference. But I am very excited to be seeing not only some previews for the rules coming out, look at their spears, they are shiny and powerful, but also just to know that the Codex is on its way, because I always like seeing when new Codexes are coming out because it makes me optimistic that maybe one day down the line we'll be getting the Death Guard one. However, there is one other Codex we got announced, and let's take a look at that next. And that Codex is, of course, for the Orks! Wah! Let's take a look. We also got a mini reveal, and I think this is going to be awesome. I haven't thought about my Orks for a little while, but knowing that they're getting a book coming up means that I'm probably going to dust them off and continue working on them and build up that army a bit more. So expect to see some Ork content here in the near future on the channel, especially when this big mech boy comes out. Oh my gosh, is he not amazing? He is chonky and beautiful, and I absolutely love him. Let's take a closer look at our mech boy because he's just he's basically a dreadnought. I feel like he has an exoskeleton on him, and I think that is so cool. It's a little intimidating, I will admit, to look at this model and go, oh man, how am I going to approach painting him, especially with a color scheme that involves a few more colors than just black, red, and then the green skin, like how this is doing. There's a lot of metallics in there too, but I feel like this is actually a relatively limited color palette. Whereas when I paint my Orks, they're like super vivid and just all over the place. So I am really gonna have to pick and choose, I think, where I add color to this model and where I keep things more neutral and metallic. But regardless, I think the challenge is going to be very exciting. And as I mentioned, I'm looking forward to the Ork Codex. It's looking cool. I can't wait for it to come out. I hope it comes out around the same time the Custodian one will. And I have been seeing some rumors online, nothing confirmed, of course, so take this with what you will. But I have been seeing some rumors that we might end up getting an Ork Custodian box set of some variety. And if that is true, I will definitely be trying to get my hands on it because that sounds perfect for me and my partner with our future builds. We're returning to the realm of Age of Sigmar, but this time in support of Chaos, specifically the Slaves of Darkness. Now we have a couple of models to take a look at here, and while I am not overly impressed with them because I'm not a super big fan of Slaves of Darkness, despite the fact that I do support Chaos immensely, but for some reason they've never really grabbed me. However, I do think it's cool that they are coming from the Hammer and Bolter episodes on Warhammer Plus. So the fact that these are animated characters coming to life is super cool to me.
I am the bane of monsters.
They are pretty cool looking models, don't get me wrong, but it just continues to contribute to the idea that I feel like Age of Sigmar is mildly confused in its identity and what it wants to look like. Because, and maybe this is just always how Chaos is felt, and I kind of do feel like that's true, but regardless, these feel more old world to me than they do Age of Sigmar or Stormcast Eternal, etc., and how they've been taking the more hero directions. And so it's just a little bit strange. So those models look really cool. Don't get me wrong. I do think these characters are badass and their outfits look great. But again, the Slaves to Darkness aesthetic has never really appealed to me, much in the same way that I've never really gravitated super heavily towards Black Legion. When it comes to Chaos for me, I really like it to have a little bit more specific theming tied to one of the 4 gods specifically, rather than it being undivided. The undivided feel to me is just, I don't know, I want them to pick. I just want them to make a choice and pick one of the gods to stick to. Is that so much to ask? But regardless, these models are very, very cool. There are a few other ones, however, that I want to take a look at that has me a bit more excited because these, again, kind of just feel like they may have been part of like a Cursed City thing, or at least minimum they're trying to replicate what they used to do in the old world. Whereas with the Darkoath army set that we got announced, these guys have a little bit more of a Bog Witch vibe, if I had to identify it in any way. So let's take a look at this trailer.
We are destined for greater things. The favor of the gods will be upon us.
Like, I like the look of these models more. Maybe it's just because of the slight swampiness to them, especially when we see the like leader character and all of the horses. Like, I really, really like the vibe of the riders. They're awesome. And they look like they're actually in the show too, which is really great to see. Again, I think it's really cool that all of these characters and these designs are getting pulled from their animated feature and actually being used in the tabletop game. I like seeing that integration. And the big monster boy is very, very awesome. We'll take a closer look at some of these models in more details here soon. But they still aren't like the most thrilling to me because, again, I really want them to lean into one of the Chaos gods. And I know that's not Slaves to Darkness thing, so I get that. It's just my personal opinion. But however, we are getting a Darkoath army set. The box looks awesome. I do really dig the vibe that this army like aesthetic is looking like. I like the variation, at least in scale, of the smaller guys, and then we've got some mounted guys, and then of course you have your big monster boy. And we should take a closer look at some of them. So here is our chieftain on Warsteed, and this is where I get a little bit of the Bog Witch and or at least a bit of Nurgle feel from it, because the horse feels a little death-like. Maybe it's just me, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. In particular, I do actually really like his mask form. I got a few of them, and this one reminds me of that Mad Max character, Joe, I think is his name. Yeah, it reminds me of that. Now here is the monster, and this is the Wilder Fiend. He looks epic. I really do like this aesthetic. I mean, it helps that they also painted him purple, and I'm always biased towards creatures that are purple, but I do like the really big horns, his spiky back, and just all of the details on him. And I actually do really like the way they sculpted the rocks on this particular base. I think that is actually kind of cool as well, because I don't feel like we see these rounded, again, kind of swampy feeling rocks. But what I actually really, really like are some of the basic Marauders. In particular, I think this woman's face looks awesome. Like, in particular, these women look really cool. I think she looks like a badass. He's also really cool. Really, their hair, their facial expressions on some of these models, I just really enjoy. And I've just been really getting into some of the basic infantry, especially when it comes to Age of Sigmar, because I feel like some of their bigger characters, some of the named characters, get a little overblown. Honestly, like they end up putting too much into them, whereas these guys have a little bit more of a, I can relate to them. I feel like I could be this Marauder. She could be me, I could be her. It's great. Are you excited for the Slaves of Darkness box set? Is that a faction that you like to run? Will you be picking this up? Let me know down in the comments below. Last but certainly not least, Games Workshop announced the continuation and new partnership with a couple of branded products that are not specific to their normal catalog, such as people like Joy Toy, the company that makes all of the very cool Warhammer 40k action figures that I absolutely love, and they've started making their Horus Heresy line, and they just announced some new Justarian Terminators for Horus Heresy. Look at them, they're beautiful, but this isn't the only company that Games Workshop was talking about. And there's one in particular that I want to showcase more than anything else, but I want to touch on the other ones that were mentioned. So we of course have the Warhammer Art Company that you can get prints from. We have McFarlane Toys, who also makes action figures of the same scale as Joy, or actually larger than the Joy Toy ones, but are also still very cool, although I think the paint jobs on Joy Toy are a bit better. I'm biased, they've sent me toys. You can take from that what you want. There's also people like Displate who they've started working with. So if you want prints and everything, you can get that. They just signed a partnership with Weta. So if you want some big, very beautiful statues that are very expensive as well, you can get that too, because good Lord, look at that Space Marine. Is he not beautiful? And they have some other details of some upcoming creatures that they're making. And it looks like we might be getting an Abaddon, which is, I admit, I might be tempted to pick up the Weta Abaddon. That might definitely be worth it to me. We also have a Darktide card game coming out from Cubicle 7, which I am interested in only because I'm like, what is this going to be? Like, I don't think this is necessarily going to be a good game, unfortunately, because just I'm disappointed with Darktide, the video game, and I just don't see how a co-op card game is going to make me want to get into that even more. But I'm curious. You've got me talking about it, Games Workshop. You've got me talking about it. We also have the Ultimate Guide to Warhammer 40k, which you can bet your bottom I am buying this book, and I cannot wait to judge it. I cannot wait to judge it so hard on like what they may or may not get wrong or what they may or may not include. It's going to be ridiculous. There's also a new display case coming out, which is pretty cool. But the main thing that I actually want to focus your attention on is the fact that we're getting a way to cosplay officially Warhammer Old World characters. Games Workshop has partnered with a medieval tailor, and they are making Warhammer official clothing. Let's watch the trailer, because this blows my mind and I am so excited. The potential of this is so cool. Now, Bergschneider is the name of the company, and I am not familiar with them, but if you've heard of them, awesome, because they seem amazing. I've looked into them since this, and we'll talk about them more.
Frankfurt, and you met a lot of people, and one of those people was Paul.
Look at them! Oh,
founded
they look like such dorks, and that's
My
perfect.
Passion for games, especially role-playing or tabletop games, and Paul's passion for historical clothing is at the core of what came to be Bergschneider.
What you mean? What got me here?
Okay.
So what actually started me having an apprenticeship here was me making a Warhammer cosplay.
Of course it was, because you're a big dork. I love it.
At Bergschneider.
This is a totally formative part of where my career has gone. I remember my dad saying to me, you know, oh, you're just wasting time with those little guys and stuff. And then now here I am using them, making swords and designing
we're gonna get swords. Like, we're gonna get old world swords. We're gonna get old world costumes. I cannot wait to see how this ends up working out, how successful it might end up being.
Long road trip that Marcus and I were on. And I remember saying, how crazy would it be someday if we ever got to work with Warhammer? And I remember him kind of looking at me and being like, someday, maybe we'll get a chance to.
I can't wait to see people pour their
And now they
creativity
do.
that they have for painting
Now they
movies
do.
into creating their own costumes and character.
One of the fundamental design principles behind Berkshire has always been the idea that costumes should actually.
I love that we might be
for
getting
storytelling.
armor seemingly as well based off some of these shots. Like,
is a dream come true.
To
Yes,
see people
yes.
in these costumes, to see them gearing up, grabbing arms, putting on armor. We can't wait for people to bring the old world into your reality.
yes,
Towards
I want
scale
to. I
with
want to
these
bring the
costumes.
old world into my reality so hard, please. I want to see them. Let's show me the costumes. All right, cool. I mean, it looks like it's a full head to toe costume. I like it. I like it. Now, these are all prototypes, of course, as the text is showing. But if this is what we're getting, if this is the quality of what we're going to be getting, I am hyped. I also hope we end up getting some maiden costumes as well, because I'd love to be able to be in like a flowy dress and just look amazing. Now, as soon as I saw this announcement in this trailer, I had to go to their website and be like, okay, what are your prices like? How expensive is this product ultimately going to be? Because obviously, when these come out, they're going to have a GW sales tax added onto them, which means they're going to be more expensive than their base stuff that we're finding on their website. But after looking at their website, these are some of the more expensive items that I could find, and they're like sub 200. So like, let's assume that Games Workshop does add on a ridiculous price or something like that. I realistically think you might be able to get some of these outfits for between $400 to $600, and that includes potentially everything. Which, if that is the case, holy crap, I am so pumped. Now, to be fair, even if you don't end up getting some of the Warhammer specific licensed stuff, honestly, Old World is pretty historical to begin with. They don't quite go as icon heavy as Warhammer 40k tends to. So some of these pieces you could probably just pick up, maybe add a little stitching of like the twin-tailed comet or whatever crest of whatever knight you might want to represent or something that you buy separately or make yourself, or just I don't know if they do custom stuff, but potentially they could add that on. But it really feels like it's just ready to go. You can wear it and then feel like you're in the old world. And I love that Games Workshop is actually licensing this officially to make old world cosplay even more viable. I want to see more of that. I hope down the line we maybe get some official, at least Warhammer 40k props a bit more. Like, give me some officially licensed toy makers that make bolt guns and those kinds of things. Like, I get the costuming might be a little bit, you don't want to go that direction because fascism. However, bolt guns would be fine. Please, please, please. It would be so cool. More of this, please, Games Workshop. Are you hyped for this, or is it just me? That's going to be it for this week in hobby news. Let me know down in the comments whether or not you're excited more for the Custodian Codex or the Ork Codex. I think for me, it's definitely the Orks. Until then, I have been Angela. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons and my YouTube members for making it so content like this can continue to happen. Without your guys' support, we would not be doing this. So thank you very, very much. And I hope everyone has a wonderful hobby night. See you next time.